Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah wa barakatuh. The world is full of options. The world is full of different things you can look into, different things you can study, different things you can spend your time with. The world is full of religions, and the world is full of philosophies. The world is full of points of view. And the world is full of arrogance and ignorance. And all of these ways of understanding things are often subject to the arrogance and the ignorance of the ones who are looking into them. But beneath all of this, at the essence of all of it, is truth. And truth is what we're looking for. Truth is what we're trying to find. And the world is full of so many lies that this finding the truth is a difficult thing. There's a movie from India called Water, which I recommend that you see. You can get it on video. You can't get it in the movies. And it's about customs in India, which were part of the Hindu religion, which had to do with when a man died in a marriage and was put on the pyre to be burned. His wife was to be put on the pyre with him to be burned. The alternative was that she goes to a nunnery. And the movie is about the horrible situation that this caused in India and how it became part of the culture. At the end of the movie, Gandhi is traveling through the movie and ends up in some town where this is going on. And he says something that's quite profound. He says, I used to think religion was the truth, but now I know that truth is religion. And Sufism is a search for the truth. Sufism is a search for reality. Sufism is an attempt to understand the nature of our existence and why our existence is, why we were created, the purpose of this creation, and knowledge of the one who created us. In layman's terms, this is called wisdom. Wisdom is knowledge of the truth. But most knowledge is ignorant. And when mixed with arrogance, most ignorance is sustained as a cultural phenomenon that goes on and on and on and keeps trapping people in its own ignorance because it becomes the way of that culture. And it's very difficult for people to break away from their culture. It's very difficult for people to break away from what they've been taught by their parents. But if you want to find the truth, if you want to learn wisdom, you have to find a wise man. You have to study with a wise man, and you have to pick up the qualities from a wise man. When you came into this world, you had nothing. All of us had nothing. And when we leave this world, What is it that we can take with us? Many people spend their lifetime in this world gathering things, accumulating things, as if they belonged to them. But man eventually finds out that there's nothing that belongs to him. There's nothing he can take. Everything is borrowed for a short period of time, and then it goes to someone else. However, man in his ignorance and arrogance thinks he can hold on to these things forever. The only thing that man can take with him when the end time has come is the good that he's done and the evil that he's done. These stick to him. These become part of him. These are who he truly is. You are not your possessions. You are your qualities. But man thinks he is his possessions. So man sees external things as a representative of who or what he is, when in truth, what's inside of you is who or what you are. And to be able to look inside of yourself as to the truth of yourself, you have to transcend your attachment to the external world. The world exists out there, and we are in the world, but we are not meant to swallow the world. Yet so many people spend their lifetime swallowing the world. And the way this happens is through mind and desire. Mind and desire bring what's outside inside. And if we bring what's outside inside, we then take the impure and bring it into the area that's pure. So we need to understand that that which we bring into ourselves from mind and desire needs to be expelled, needs to be thrown out eventually, because it is an attachment to that which is not pure. It's an attachment to the elemental. So we have this purity inside of ourselves, and we bring the elemental into ourselves. There's a story of a woodcutter who every day went out and cut wood. And at the end of the day, he would sell his wood. He would go to his home, and there was a peddler out in front of his home who would be selling fruits and various foods. And he would spend his money on food, and he would distribute it among his friends, and they would laugh and talk and sing, and they'd all go to bed. And the next morning, he would start again with going to work to cut wood. On a hill above where the man lived, a rich man lived, and he used to look down on the woodcutter buying the fruits and goodies from the peddler. And the rich man kept his money under his bed, and he was so miserly that he couldn't bring himself to buy much food. He couldn't bring himself to spend the money with the peddler. The peddler would say, I can give you 12 of these for 12 cents. And he would say, I'll give you 3 cents. And the peddler would say, that's more than it cost me, and wouldn't sell it to him. And he would go back. Well, one day, a wise man was walking through the area, and the rich man saw the wise man outside his door, and they began to talk. And the rich man recognized the transcendent quality of the wise man. And the rich man also understood his dilemma. He understood his miserliness and he understood his difficulties. And so he asked the wise man if he could help him. And the wise man said, "You've gotten a disease. The three major desires in this world are land, women, and money. And you've become incredibly attached to money to the point where you don't use money, you collect money. And money is like manure. It doesn't do any good unless it's spread around." He almost understood this, but he couldn't figure out how he could spread it around. And the wise man said, "I'll show you how this disease develops. Get a bag and put 99 coins in the bag. And tonight, after the woodcutter goes to bed, go down to his hut and throw the bag into his house. The next morning, the woodcutter got up and he saw this bag. He opened it up and he saw it had coins in them, and he began to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 60, 70, 80, 90, 99. He said, "Oh my God, you've been so generous to me. You gave me 99 coins. Why didn't you give me 100?" And the woodcutter went out the next day and cut his wood. And instead of spending the usual amount that he spent on fruits and distributing it, he just bought a little portion so he could put the rest into his bag of money. And now he had over 100. And he counted it, and he was up to 112. He enjoyed the counting, but he became frightened about the fact that he might somehow lose his money. So he didn't sleep well at night. He began to worry, but he also began to work more hours so that he could collect more money. And he worked and he added to his collection of money. But as he added to his collection of money, he removed the joy from his life. He removed the happiness from his life. He couldn't collect money and be joyous at the same time. The collection of money became the most important thing in his life, and he couldn't stop thinking about it. And the wise man said to the rich man, "This is what's happened to you. And the only way for you to be relieved of this is to give your money away and come with me, and you can do what I do." And the rich man did it and became a wanderer along with the wise man, and he became his student and began to try and pick up his qualities. If we are going to find somebody who knows the truth, that's the first step in the process. The second step is to somehow begin to understand the nature of the qualities of the wise man and incorporate the qualities of the wise man inside of ourselves, to watch his actions and to learn how he in fact acts and to incorporate his actions into ourselves, to be able to know the qualities, have the qualities, and act out the qualities. This is the way we will be saved. This is the way we will find the truth, as opposed to living a life of illusion, which we believe is real. For most men, this life in the world and of attaching themselves to the world is the way that they live their existence. Two bullfrogs were at opposite ends of a small pond, and the pond was not big enough for both of them, so they attacked each other. One bullfrog opened up its mouth and tried to swallow the other. The other kept expanding so that he couldn't swallow him. Eventually, they both exploded. And this is what happens when we try to swallow the world. Eventually, there'll be an explosion. Eventually, the end will come, and nothing will come of it because of the intense need to swallow the world. When we're born into the world, we all come in naked. We all come in relatively the same. And if you look at small children, babies, you'll notice most of them act relatively the same. But within a few months, they become different because of the influence of their parents and what their parents do to them and impose upon them. They then begin to grow up differently from each other. And they take on the patterns and the belief systems of their parents. If their parents have belief systems that are arrogant and ignorant and are not truthful, they will live a life of arrogance and ignorance that is not truthful. They will be caught in the lies of the world. They'll be caught in the satanic net of material wealth, material needs, material desires, and this will be the extent of their life. And if you look at the world, you can see that much of the world lives in this net of material desires, lives in this net of accumulation of things, and judges their success or failure in the world by what they have accumulated. Now, I had the incredible experience of living with a sheikh, a wise man. When I was about 26, I met him. And it was extraordinary because he had no physical wealth. He had no physical belongings. He had no material belongings. He had very few needs, if any. He had two or three sarongs, two or three turbans, and a few t-shirts. That was his wealth. Yet, it was evident from encountering him that his state of contentment, his state of tranquility, his state of peace, his state of unity with existence was greater than anyone else I had ever met, was greater than anyone else I had known, no matter what their economic status was. And then it became evident to me that economic status is not a true measure of contentment. Economic status is not a true measure of success within this world. Success is measured by your tranquility. Success is measured by your peace. Success is measured by your attaining the qualities that belong to God and having incorporated them into your being. Success is measured by the way that you act towards others. Success is measured by the unity that you've acquired within yourself that you are capable of dispersing to others. Success is measured by that which you can give unto others, by the love that you can exude, by the compassion that you can exude, by the mercy that you can exude. This is true success in the world. Allah created us to be like Him. And to be like Him, we have to incorporate His qualities into us. And we have to become knowledgeable of those qualities. And when that happens, there's another caveat that goes along with it. You have to act out those qualities. You can't just have mercy, you have to be merciful. You can't just have compassion, you have to give out compassion. You can't just love, you have to exude love. You have to become one who loves, one who gives mercy, one who interacts with humanity to aid humanity so that humanity understands the truth of the transcendent qualities that are Allah. And if we can't do that, we haven't accomplished what we've been sent here to do. We become gatherers, we become collectors of the world. And we have to learn to live in the world, but not be part of the world. And this transcendent capability, this transcendent um, requirement of man is not something that most men can do. Religion doesn't often require transcendence. Religion requires adherence. And there's a big difference between transcendence and adherence. The clerics in religions don't have the wisdom that the founders of these religions had, or the ones who these religions are based on. The God sent prophets into the world, and all of them came with a message of unity among all mankind. But what happened is man took the prophet and made the prophet different than the other prophets and began to create a scale of importance with their prophet being the most important, their prophet being the one to adhere to, and then becoming at odds with those who were taught by other prophets. That man has lost the ability to understand unity and understand truth. So arrogance and ignorance take men to war in the name of religion. Arrogance and ignorance take men to war in the name of God. And nothing can be further from reality. Nothing can be further from understanding truth. We need to transcend the world and transcend the ideas of the world and get away from differences. Yet, what actually happens if we follow the ways of our parents and the ways of society, we get more enmeshed and embedded in differences, and our life becomes differences, and then our life, instead of being tranquil and peaceful, becomes a competition with every other religion, a competition with other people as to every way of being. These things need to be let go of. And if they're not let go of, then we are doomed to living a life that does not take us in the direction that the wise men intend for us or that God intended for us. Within Sufism, it's understood that in order to be able to go in an appropriate direction and transcend the difficulties in the world, a wise man is needed. A sheikh is needed. Someone who can point out to you what's right and what's wrong. And these men have a resonance to them, a power to them. This resonance spreads through the world. These men are in constant prayer for the world. These men are in constant devotion to the rest of humanity. And if you need assistance, it's easy to ask from them because this is what they do all the time anyway. So, in essence, you're not asking, you're just tuning in to what's going on. These men give, and they are constantly giving, and it is their nature to give. So, if you have a need, that what becomes answered. In the way God answers your needs, the wise man answers your needs. And often you don't even need to speak the specifics of what the need is. The wise man understands the need and will do what he can towards praying for that need. Now, not all things will turn out the way that man thinks they should, but they turn out the way that God thinks they should. And we have to be able to accept that which God has ordained. So we need to understand that. Now, no man has seen God. No man can say, I know God. But if a man takes on the qualities of God, if a man can absorb mercy and compassion uh, and love and exude mercy and compassion and love, then you can see God in man. You can see the actions of God in man when man takes on God's qualities and gives them out. And that's how we see God. That's how we see God's actions. So, can we become the ones who are part of that work that is done within this world? God's work is to provide. God's work is to protect. God's work is to give what man needs. God has sent man as manifestations of those qualities so that man can understand and see with his eyes that which God does. And when there is a real holy man, when there's a real wise man, his influence and his nature is such that it overwhelms ordinary men. It transfixes them. It mesmerizes them. It hypnotizes them. And this is a wonderful thing Because if you can become hypnotized by mercy, then mercy will enter into you. If you've been hypnotized by love, then love will enter into you. If you become mesmerized by peace, peace will enter into you. And as it enters into you, you grow and you transcend. You transcend the nature of the world and the nature of the elemental, and you transcend to that which is non-elemental. God has no form. God has no religion. God has no wife, and God has no children. God is available equally to each and every one. And this understanding is a transcendent understanding because it doesn't have the arrogance of egoism. It doesn't have the arrogance of mine and yours. And man lives off this arrogance. This becomes the succor of most men's lives. Without these differences, they wouldn't be able to exist. So to make the turnaround, to leave arrogance, to leave the way of our parents, to leave the way of the world, to leave the needs that people have of accumulating things, to be able to turn away from all of that is a major accomplishment in man's life. And if we are going to move on through the trajectory of existence, we have to get rid of this. We are, we have been placed in a world that is not ours. We have been placed in a temporary situation on our travels. But if we treat this temporary situation as our permanent reside, as our permanent residence, as our permanent place, then we've lost touch with truth and we've lost touch with reality. And we've created an illusion that we believe is real. And so somehow we have to create a new understanding, especially about our life. Our life is not this body. Our life is not our time spent on earth. Our life is not the world. There is more to our life than that. And this part of our existence is meant to disappear. And when it disappears, we either move on or we get stuck back here through reincarnation. And if we have spent a life accumulating material things, we can't move on. If we've spent a life detaching ourselves from what mind and desire bring to us and attaching ourselves to the qualities that are God's qualities, then we can move on. So our fate as to our existence is within our own hands. That which we accomplish for ourselves is with our own hands. Our transcendence is with our own hands. And we need to transcend from this animal form into a formless existence that extends beyond this lifetime. That's what's known as eternity. This is our eternal life. And if we limit ourselves to this existence, if our thought patterns are such that when this life ends, everything else ends, then we have lost the truth. We've lost touch with the truth. We've lost touch with reality. So we have to take a constant assessment of ourselves. We have to constantly look at what our attitudes are. We have to constantly encounter what is important to us and what we hold dear. And at the top of our list, we have to hold God dear, and we have to hold God's qualities dear. And then the love within us will grow, and we can hold every human being dear. But if we don't have that connection to God, we can't have that connection to man. That connection to God exists within every man. And it is that connection to God, from the God within us to the God within them, that creates the unity in existence. We all came from the rays of that one effulgent nature, which we know is God, where all was created from. So all souls came from the same place. All souls started out from that one place and are the same. Things change after we're born, but we have to go back to that original creation that made us, that original purity that is within us. And if we can find that, we can find the truth. And if we can find that, we can find our eternal life. So may that be our portion. May eternity be our portion. May God allow us to understand the nature of reality and the unity of all existence. And may He allow us to become part of the unity of all existence. Amin. Amin. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.